The girl from the jazz club Midnight Lily. In a cellar soaked in whiskey and secrets, the club Midnight Lily serves as a confessional for its queen, Lily Hayes, a singer whose voice carries a sorrow that was never cried out. 3 years ago, she ran away from the altar, leaving behind her fiancé, the wealthy magnate John Archers. Soon after, he was found dead. Since that night, Lily has been singing her contract with the devil, buying back her life one song at a time while hiding a terrible truth. But when Private Detective Daniel Crowe walks into the club, hired not to find a killer but a missing diamond, the heart of the night, the game of cat and mouse turns into a deadly obsession. Crowe soon realizes that his real task isn't the jewel, it's her truth. Every blues song she sings is a key to a crime, and the club's owner, Martin Gray, is more than just her boss. He's her jailer, keeping her trapped with the secret of her past as lifelong blackmail. In this world of noir, where every glance is a lie and every touch a threat, a dangerous flame sparks between the detective and the singer. Crowe must choose, expose the truth and doom Lily, or break every law to save the woman whose soul comes alive only when she's standing on the edge of death. Are you ready to hear the ballad that cost a life and won freedom? Prologue. The City That Never Forgives. Chicago, 1936. The city wasn't just a place on the map. It was a predator. It had survived Prohibition, but never recovered from its wounds. The end of the dry law didn't bring freedom, only a new kind of crime. Smarter, smoother, more elegant in its cruelty. The air in Chicago smelled as if every rainstorm tried and failed to wash away the dirt and blood of its streets. Ozone before a thunderstorm, exhaust from expensive cars, and the thick, bittersweet scent of forbidden jazz. The only honest sound after midnight. Everything in this city was decided after dark. By day, deals, handshakes, and smiles. By night, gunshots in the alleys, whispers in basements, and agreements sealed not with ink, but with fear. And in the very heart of this darkness, where the city lights melted into red and blue mist, stood the club Midnight Lily. Before we begin our story, we want to thank you for listening. We work hard to bring you these tales. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the next story. Thank you. Part 1. The Queen of Smoke and Secrets. Her name was Lily Hayes. She was 27, the queen of the midnight hour, the silent ruler of the cellar that was both her throne and her prison. The Midnight Lily was the reflection of her new, darker life. It hid beneath an old building on the edge of the business district, where even in summer the air smelled of cold stone, decay, and expensive contraband whiskey mixed with the thick perfume of rare imported scents. The lighting was only red and blue, so that no guest could truly see anyone, not even themselves. It was a place where masks mattered more than faces. Lily didn't sing. She confessed. Her voice was low and velvety, with a soft, tempting rasp, as if she were singing through a curl of cigarette smoke she never actually inhaled. When she reached a note in her blues ballads, it felt like she was pulling something heavy out of her chest, something she had buried deep inside. Each word carried a life she no longer lived, a life she had shed 3 years ago. Like a skin that had grown too tight. She was secret of the bride and the shroud. 3 years ago, Lily Hayes was a gentle, talented pianist, the daughter of a once wealthy family slowly fading into ruin. She was engaged to John Archers, a man who was meant to be her salvation and her cage. John was reliable, cold, and frighteningly successful. His power was growing like a tumor. Marrying him was supposed to save her family's name and trap her in a quiet, predictable life. John Archers didn't love, he possessed. He saw Lily as the perfect wife, a beautiful silent accessory for his growing empire. He wanted to own her like a rare, priceless stock. But the day before the wedding, Lily looked at her silk wedding dress lying on the bed, and it felt like a shroud. She couldn't breathe, so she ran. She left no note. She simply disappeared. On the table in the living room lay a heavy platinum ring with a large, lifeless diamond. She left behind her name, her family, her world. She took only her gift, to play and to sing. Death on the river. 2 weeks later, they found John Archers. His body was pulled from the dirty river just a mile from his country house. A blow to the head. Robbery, jealousy, revenge. The case was closed, but the police found no weapon, no witnesses, and no answers. It became just another unsolved mystery of Chicago, the kind that never stays buried forever. Lily knew the city would come looking for her. She felt it deep down. Her escape wasn't the end, it was only the beginning. When you run from the past, it doesn't fall behind. It just waits for you, somewhere dark, smoky, and underground. Part 2. The Shadow Across the River. Daniel Crowe stepped into Midnight Lily for the first time, not for the jazz and not for the women. He came for a case, one he already found boring, but too well paid to refuse. He was a private detective, a man with tired eyes who had seen too much and believed too little. His perfectly cut, though slightly worn dark coat made him look like an outsider. He'd been hired by an insurance company, Archer & Sons. The task: find the missing jewels of John Archer's, a whole collection, rubies, sapphires, and the legendary Heart of the Night, a massive black diamond that vanished the same night John did. Officially, they were stolen by the killers. But the insurance company suspected fraud, that Archer's had staged the robbery himself to claim the money before someone killed him for real. Crowe sat at the bar. He ordered whiskey on the rocks, not because he wanted it, but because it was part of the disguise. He felt like a stranger in this world of smoke, sweat, and dangerous charm. And then Lily walked on stage. She wasn't just beautiful, she was dangerous, like a black and white photograph that suddenly came alive in one fatal shade. The first thing Crowe noticed were her eyes, deep dark amber like frozen resin. Eyes that didn't just look, they remembered. Too much. More than the law, the state, or human fear should ever allow. She sang Gloomy Sunday, a song of despair. Her voice washed away his cynicism, replacing it with a slow, almost painful curiosity. He stopped thinking about the diamond heart of the night and started wondering what could turn a pianist from high society into this priestess of basement jazz. The breakthrough Crowe came back 4 nights in a row. He listened without blinking, his professional detachment fading with each song. Finally, he couldn't just sit and watch anymore. He moved to a quiet corner, wrote a note on the back of his business card, and tucked it inside a single rose he'd found. Open quote, "You sing as if you're burying someone every night, and I want to know, whose soul is it? Yours or his?" Crowe, close quote. Lily received the rose when the club was almost empty. She stood by the piano, read the note, and a faint smile crossed her lips. It was a smile of recognition, as if she had been waiting for this message, waiting for her past to take shape again, give itself a name, and finally challenge her. Part 3. The Game of Two Lights. The next night, Crowe didn't need to sit at the bar. She came to him herself, after singing Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, with such heartbreaking sorrow that his chest tightened. Crowe? Her voice was even deeper up close, like the whisper of old violins. "Detective, Daniel Crowe," he said, standing up. His gaze was steady and heavy. "You're not here as a detective," she said calmly, sitting across from him and taking a sip of his whiskey without asking. "You're here as a listener." "I'm here to finish an investigation," he replied firmly, "and to do that I need to know who you're mourning." Lily didn't answer right away. Instead, she offered him 2 versions. Open quote, "Option 1, she said softly. "John was a monster. He wanted to own me, like part of his fortune. He didn't love. He collected. That night I ran from him, to save my soul. And when he died, I felt it was justice. I mourn the freedom that came too late." Close quote. Then she looked away, her eyes catching the dim red light. Open quote, "Option 2, John was the only man I ever loved, and I betrayed him. We were opposites, like fire and ice. His death is my fault. I mourn the only person who truly understood me, but whom I could never accept." Close quote. Crowe realized she wasn't lying, but she wasn't telling the truth either. She was telling truths about herself. This was a game, and he had to feel where her real pain was hiding, not catch her in a lie. "And which version?" he asked quietly. "Did you tell the police?" Lily smiled faintly. "I told them nothing, Detective. Lily Hayes died 3 years ago." From that moment, a dangerous game began, a cat-and-mouse dance made of glances, silences, and unfinished phrases. He was supposed to investigate stolen jewels, but now he was hunting the secret buried inside her. He started to believe the jewels were just a metaphor. The real treasure was her truth. She played with him. Sometimes she'd send him chasing shadows, meeting him in an abandoned dockside bar just to whisper, open quote, "You're looking for the wrong woman," Her name was Rose. She loved him. And then vanish before he could ask more. Close quote. Other times she'd leave a clue, a man's silver lighter on the piano, engraved with the initials J.A., John Archer's. Crow sank deeper into her world. He couldn't sleep. The case became personal. He started to see connections between Lily, John, and that fatal night that changed everything. Part 4. The man who owned everything. Crow knew the key to Lily wasn't in her songs, it was in her cage. The club's name, Midnight Lily, was too personal to be just a coincidence. He began digging into John Archer's past, his business deals, his enemies, his so-called friends. And that's when he found him, Martin Gray. Gray wasn't just the owner of the club. He was the king of the shadows, the kind of man who ran Chicago with a silk glove and an iron will. He controlled the city's black market, Canadian whiskey, smuggled silk, even influence in City Hall. Crow discovered that Gray and Archer's had been partners until their alliance fell apart a year before the murder. It ended badly. Archer, greedy for more power, had betrayed Gray, turning over a shipment of contraband to federal agents in exchange for immunity and political favors. It was a motive. At that time, Gray was drowning in debt, and that betrayal had nearly ruined him. Crow finally found him in his office, deep inside the club where the air was thick with cigar smoke and the smell of expensive danger. "Detective Crow," Gray said with a mocking smile, "you don't look like a jazz lover. Still chasing rubies?" "I'm looking for your connection to the singer," Crow replied coldly, "and to John Archer's." Gray laughed, a low, rough sound that seemed to shake the whole room. "Archer was his own worst mistake," he said. "He wanted to own everything, the business, the city, the woman. But this city, Crow, it doesn't like to be owned. As for Lily, I'm either her savior or her jailer. Take your pick." Crow left with the uneasy feeling that Martin Gray wasn't just another suspect. He was a wall, standing between Crow and the truth. And behind that wall, Lily was a prisoner, one who had chosen her cage. The silence contract. The detective kept watching, focusing on Lily's daily routine. He found out she lived in modest but elegant apartments right above the club, practically in isolation. But one detail stood out. Crow noticed a courier. Every Wednesday, exactly at 1 o'clock, the man left a thick, plain envelope at Lily's door. No return address. Crow intercepted the courier, bribed him, and opened one of the envelopes. Inside, a single $100 bill, a fortune in those days, and no letter. Only a newspaper clipping with a simple, chilling message: "As long as you sing, you live." It wasn't a gift from a fan. It was a contract, a threat wrapped in generosity. Lily wasn't free. She sang to buy her own life back, and Gray was her accountant. He hadn't killed her to use her fame or talent. He owned her. He knew she was involved in Archer's death and used it to keep her chained in silence. Crow understood then. Gray didn't kill Archer. He only finished what Lily had started and turned her fear into profit. Part 5. The Ballad of Blue Smoke. Crow pieced everything together. Gray's motives, smuggling, debts, the missing jewelry probably taken by Gray, and Lily's blackmail, but he had no proof, no evidence the police would accept. Only Lily and her truth. He knew Gray would never let her talk. The only chance was to make her speak while they still had time. Crow made the most dangerous move of his career. He went back to Lily's apartment. Open quote, "I know everything, Lily," he said, his voice dry and cold as steel. "Gray, the smuggling, he's blackmailing you, using your part in Archer's death. He's holding you to that contract. As long as you sing, you live. I have enough to go to the police, but he'll kill you before I even get there." Close quote. Lily turned pale. The femme fatale was gone. In her place stood a terrified girl trapped inside her own nightmare. Open quote, "Then you have to tell me everything. Now," he said, stepping closer. "Tell me where the jewels are. I'll buy us time." Close quote. That night, against all rules, the Midnight Lily Club was closed to the public. Inside, the lights burned blood red. Martin Gray sat at a table, drinking, watching the stage. He knew Crow was planning something. Lily walked out to sing. It was her farewell performance. She sang Blue Smoke. There was no rasp in her voice, only raw, naked pain. She sang about love turned to ash and life turned to a lie. Crow watched from the shadows, his hand clenched around a gun. After the show, when Gray stepped outside to smoke a cigar, she approached Crow. Open quote, "Walk me, Dan. I need some air." Close quote, they went up to the rooftop. Chicago stretched beneath them, hazy, restless, alive. The confession. Open quote, you were right, Lily whispered, tears trembling in her eyes. It was all a lie. Close quote, and she told him everything. Open quote, John was blackmailing Martin, threatening to expose his smuggling operation to the feds. Not for justice, for money. He wanted control of Martin's assets. That night, the eve of our wedding, I met John at our country house. I begged him to stop, not for Martin, but for us. I knew that business would destroy him. He laughed, said I was just his most expensive possession, that I had no voice, no right to speak. Close quote. Her voice trembled. Open quote. We struggled. He grabbed my arm. I pushed him away. He fell, hit his head on the stone fireplace. I didn't see the blood. I just ran. I ran from what I'd done, from the ruins of my life. Close quote. Open quote. Martin found me later. He found John's body, found me, hysterical, crying over his ring. He saved me, said he'd take care of everything. He dumped the body in the river to protect me. Close quote. Open quote, but in return, I sing, in his club, I'm his charm, his money machine. My life is his property until he decides I've paid enough. Close quote. Open quote, and the jewels? Crow asked. Close quote. Open quote, I don't know. I think Martin took them, payment for my silence and my new life. Close quote. Open quote, I'm not a killer, Dan, she whispered, her face open, exhausted. But I didn't save him either. Now I'm just a corpse that still breathes to the rhythm of music. Close quote. Part 6, Farewell to Lily Hayes. Lily's confession freed her, but trapped Crow. He realized the jewels didn't matter anymore. He loved her. The fatal woman, the liar, but finally a real one. Open quote, we're leaving, he said suddenly. Tonight, I won't hand anything over to the cops. We'll disappear. Close quote. At that moment, footsteps echoed on the roof. Martin Gray. He stepped forward, rage twisting his face, but his eyes burned with cold certainty. Open quote, I knew you'd talk, Lily, he said, pulling a gun. You thought I'd let my golden charm walk away? You belong here, in the smoke, in the dark. Close quote. He aimed at Lily. It wasn't anger, it was ownership. Crow didn't think. He acted. Years of instinct took over. He fired first. Gray fell. The silence that followed was deafening. Blood spread across the wet concrete. Lily looked at Crow. The blood was on both their hands now. They weren't just accomplices in an old crime, they just created a new one. A bloody vow bound them together. They packed a few essentials. Lily left behind her satin gown and took a simple wool coat. By dawn, they were on a train heading east, to New York. Lily leaned against him. Open quote. If anyone asks who we are, she whispered, barely audible under the clatter of wheels, tell them we're just a couple of runaway musicians, and let the past do the singing for us. Close quote. The train pulled away. Through the window, Chicago faded, drowned in rain and smoke, a city that betrayed them as much as they betrayed it. A few miles out, Crow switched on a small portable radio. He was looking for music. A calm announcer's voice broke through the jazz. Open quote, breaking news tonight. The popular jazz club Midnight Lily burned to the ground. Police believe the cause was an electrical short. Among the dead, famed singer Lily Hayes, whose body was found in the ruins. Close quote. Crow turned off the radio sharply. He looked at Lily. She was smiling, for the first time since he'd met her. Not like a femme fatale, but like a woman finally at peace. Open quote. Let it be so, Dan, Lily Hayes whispered. Let me be dead. Because for the first time, I'm truly alive. Close quote. She rested her head on his shoulder. The train carried them away into the dawn. Somewhere far behind, a lonely saxophone played the last sorrowful tune, a ballad of love stronger than death, but forever bound to crime.